So, Chakravartin was my attempt to make up for falls with another bullet hell set, and this time I actually had some good concepts here, such as a sun that slows down time within it, and more importantly, projectiles that the more of them hit the opponent at once, the more knockback was dealt. And due to the fact that he had time-stopping capabilities, he could potentially juggle an absolutely massive amount of these things on screen at once, and with the down throw, potentially just direct them all at the opponent, although they still have the opportunity to dodge. And part of the set is about overwhelming the opponent's options to dodge this, and there's also some stage creation stuff, which helps you position them and helps make sure that they don't dodge with other projectiles or directs the projectiles around. It's not completely original, but I definitely like the base concept of the swords, although it's been reused in Sakuya now and done better. I still think that it was done in an interesting way here, especially, I actually think it works. I actually think this worked into a boss mode fine, because because it's just he's got so much manipulation of projectiles you can potentially get so that the opponents have to all have to just dodge swords at once, or he can just control so many swords at the same time that he can potentially just hit every foe with them and not just one, or preoccupy everyone at once.
The boss mode is one of the things that makes me at all tolerant of the wackier terraforming and stage construction in the set. It's a lot better in the context of 3v1.
I can understand why people would not like the terraforming in the set, and I don't think the terraforming itself was fantastic, even, but I still think it at least contributes. The set's a bit it's a bit loose with the flow at points, and on an obscene potential character like this, I can see how that'd be a problem. What with a lot of the times the set just comes down to, just more ways to make sure the opponent can't dodge, or more angles to fire projectiles at.
A nice balance the set has is that if you stack the swords together, all of their knockback combines together into one hit, but then, because they're all together, you can't really use them to cover for each other.
Yeah.
Actual bullet hell.
The other thing I actually like about this set, although maybe I should have played this up a bit more, was being able to hurt the opponent's shield with that one throw, so they couldn't just use their shield to absorb projectiles, so that you could just clear them out from the screen while Chakravartin's busy setting them up. I thought that was alright. Lizard is a set that I made in one day and still manages to get this high, which might seem a bit absurd, but I really, really like the concepts in here. Just being able to copy the opponent's moves and then modify their properties and then potentially drop them around, hidden in your rubble and to delayed hitboxes, or potentially having all the attacks cover each other via down smash. And yes, that could have been compressed into one input, I know, but there was already a lot of stuff going on in that one input, so I felt that it was justified to split them up, although possibly it could have been compressed. Aside from that, the set is not playing off it too directly all the time, but it still has some stuff like the golems, which you can copy moves from, and it just does a lot of stuff with the rubble that you're hiding in early on in the set. That stuff soon just becomes a huge playground of stuff to do with, you can turn into fire and make golems that are in flames, or just create custom battering items by turning them into gems and fusing the gems together into blades and such.
Copying from the golems is one of the main things that actually helps make this move copying input actually flow and crap, whereas you can technically make it flow all you want in other sets, but still it's just this unknown factor that's out there, but makes a lot more sense here.
It gives him a good stock to take from before he starts going crazy with other characters who don't necessarily work that well into having individual moves stolen. It's a very interesting take as well, because these three stocks obviously have their own different kind of, I don't want to say gimmicks, but that's a way of describing them, with the flame hitboxes and the other differentiating attributes. It's a pretty interesting, like, create a character sort of moveset. Especially in 1v1, it's interesting that it's actually at all balanced because of how lightweight Lizard is.
Part of the thing that makes me like the grab game so much is just the obscene amount of stuff you can do with it in conjunction with the rock structures that you can make. Like, you can just create water, like sort of like Tubba Blubba does, and then attempt to drown the opponent if the opponent's moveset is suitable for that. Or just pressure them so that you can drop another log on them to trap them in the water or something as an alternate KO method. And the fire is also obviously useful if you're copying Shauna or something, or just like having generic fire traps everywhere.
Yeah, like the very nature of these hitboxes you can create by using the golem moves is really interesting in of itself, and there's lots of versatility there, so you can pretty much copy any type of move from an opponent and probably get some kind of interesting combo going without really having to put that much thought into it.
The set does have filler, though, which I'm not happy about when this is the easiest character I have ever made, and even I know this, because it took me a day to make a set that I put 4th on the rankings, and yet I still had a bunch of filler in the aerials. So that definitely drags it down below the big 3 for me.
In my opinion, I think you probably could have put the golems all on a single special input.
That's pretty big condensing when I'm already thinking about combining at least some of these copying moves. There's like 4 or 5 copying moves in the set. They don't necessarily all have to be the same input, but they could make it like 2 or 3 or something, probably 2.
Yeah, I probably should have cut that down, admittedly, but I think that the way it is, it's still a good set. One I'm very proud of for making in one day.
It's just kind of bizarre to have this kind of filler when this character just has such high potential that he summons a minion from a throw that creates raw water that you can drown people on as one of many of the minions' moves.
Yes, that is a point.
Although at the same time, it at least is pretty balanced considering what's in there. And I think if you had more moves where he like creates like hand hitbox and stuff, and other magic attacks, probably would get really, really hard to balance.
I think another thing about this set that I will just point out is this is the most fun I have ever had writing a move set. Like, Gamzee and Eurobrask were enjoyable to make, but this was just a blast.
I think that definitely comes across in the writing style. It's very fun to read, in my opinion.
It is also the only balanced character that is ridiculously, stupidly light.
Yeah, it feels like a sequel to Kyuubi in a few ways, in terms of being a really lightweight character, but without doing it in a mechanic-y way. Second I've said that in this, but yeah. I like when sets balance something like that without going like a ridiculously overly mechanical way about it.
I am so happy you guys consider this set balanced. I was completely unsure what the reception to the balance in this set would be. And I'm happy it turned out well. So next up we have Jin Gataxias, which is my highest placing set ever. It got 2nd. So obviously I should be pretty proud of that. And the main thing which I think sells this set for me, and it seems to have sold the set for almost everyone else, was the concept of, oh, it's a combo character, but the combos aren't set because you can inflict, like, 6 different mutations on the opponent, and you have the throwing syringes to provide some much-needed variety, as well as the Gataxian probes. So, you could inflict these 6 different mutations on the foe, some of which even made your combos more versatile. But you had to put them on yourself first to increase the size of your already massive hurt box. And that ends up balancing it out a bit. And you have to inflict the status effects on the foe. You have to keep a balance between them because they're all sort of meant to counter each other in different ways. And I thought that the way it worked out was just fantastic. I do have some minor complaints with it, like there's just some moves that were awkward or fillerish. Like, I really do not like the forward throw where he just forces the opponent to make the mutation potion spill on him when they hit Jin because of some sort of weird mind control stuff. I don't know. I'm very fond of this one. I wouldn't like as much to play it as much as the top two, but it's very open-ended, and I think it's got a lot of depth.
I think all of the alternative ways you have of making more varied combos really show a lot in this moveset more than in other movesets, because a lot of them just have a lot of combo movesets that go out of their way to have unique combos just have like this one gimmick, but Jin has all these things throughout the set, like the throwing potions and all these different kinds of mutations, so it's not really just one gimmick or anything.
Yeah.
It's like the only combo set I've seen that actually does something really creative with comboing, and in a way that actually is pretty understanding of the way Smash works as well. And I also really like how it even focuses on comboing in the first place in terms of experimenting, because it feels like something that would make a lot of sense like Jin Gataxias to experiment on if he actually was, self-aware. So it's really nice thematically as well. It's being very easily imagined in Smash, despite all this experimenting stuff.
Yeah, I'm very happy with this one. Don't know what else to say. The main reason I put Vorinclex above Jin Gataxias is the simple fact that Vorinclex is the set of mine I want to play the most, by far. I mean, just every attack is capable of killing the opponent, except maybe like the jab and the pummel. And he's got just this massive quantity of options with stage tearing, and he just feels like he'd be incredibly satisfying to play. And you got the stuff like with him being able to move under the stage that's actually utilized well, with being able to create hitboxes through the stage, drag the opponents through if they're pitfalled. You can create this avalanche which pulls them down with you. Or you have other stuff you can do with mountains too, like spray oil on them and then just create this little sea where they're inhibited, and you can actually land your rather laggy or impractically hitboxed attacks. And that's part of what making all this terraforming is useful for anyway, because your attacks are so awkward to land normally due to the way that their hitboxes work, with Vorinclex being so gigantic. And you just use that to like cover up your weaknesses from your side or from it. And sometimes you can even increase like the range you have to with the up smash, being able to slide down mountainsides on the second hit of that. I thought it was very well put together. There's some minor filler in here with stuff like aerials, just terraform in ways that don't make all that much sense. But aside from that, I really like this one.
Most of the filler just comes because you have more inputs than a regular set with the extra dashing attacks.
Yeah. I do wonder if the extra dashing attacks were necessarily a good idea, but I feel like they get across the feel of the character very well. So I'm not going to complain about those.
It's a decent mechanic to balance him with the super armored dashing.
Yeah, and the other thing I like about it is just that this is it's fairly offensive for a terraforming character, what with him actually constantly trying to get up in the foe's face and such, and it actually feels very suited to this character, despite him having all this stage control and a more complicated playstyle, simply because it's all handled in a very feral sort of way.
That's probably why I like the set so much. It's definitely my favorite set of yours, because it just feels like you're playing a complete monster in pretty much every single way. Like, you just start uprooting the whole stage and throwing it at the opponent, and then you go cling under the stage to chase them, and like, the pursuit never ends, you know? It has a few problems, but I think overall the atmosphere is just so fantastic that it's completely forgivable.
Yeah, this is there's only one set here I like more than this one, so obviously I have to be pretty fond of it or I just hate myself.
I still have some actual complaints about this set, mostly just in something FA alluded to, and that a lot of the moves don't really have much reason to terraform in the specific way they do, and a lot of these moves are the only way to terraform in these specific ways, you know?
Yeah, I can understand why that'd be problematic. I think part of the reason I just had the terraforming on the other moves was just to convey the fact that he still has the same sort of physical strength he displayed there. But the fact that they terraform in different ways is a bit weird. And
I think that it's kind of give and take. Like, if you made it too organized, it would lose the kind of feral atmosphere at the same time.
And here we have our conclusion in Eurobrask. I imagine absolutely no one whatsoever is surprised by this decision. I love this set. It's, I've always appreciated stage creation, and I think the way that it's done here is really interesting, what with him being able to, not just use the stage creation just for the sake of having stage creation, but you can, cover it in lava to make it into, like, vertical lava pits, as opposed to just having lava pits on the ground. You have the magnetism, so you can move it all over the stage and use it as, like, passive barriers, attack through the barriers with stuff like the forward tilt and the forward arrow, which just, like, lets you move through your construction, or, you have, stuff like the up aerial, just create a surge of metal and lava around the stage, and
we'll definitely be here a while if you describe all the interactions in this set. This is basically like modern-day Sloth, and Sloth was basically just, every attack interacts with each other, ooh.
Yes, this set has an obscene number of interactions, and I think for the most part, they all add a lot of depth to his game. This is definitely, I think, the most open-ended set I have ever made. It would take a while to run out of things to do with this character.
It's like the definition of a playground character, and that you pretty much have infinite possibilities of how you can construct all this different stuff.
Yeah. And I still love some of the stuff with the stockpiling gas and the bubbles, which serve as actually, like, more controllable gas. And just being able to rebuild everything in the grab game with him completely destroying his setup with some of his more powerful moves. Yeah, this set's great on a lot of levels, I think. There are a couple minor things that drag it down for me, like, for all the interactions that I think are good, there are a few that just kind of stick out as not really bringing anything new to the table, like the up tilt. And sometimes I feel like, while all of these moves in the set serve as actual attacks, I feel like sometimes it's a bit too impractical to actually fight with Eurobrask's actual moves, and you're just too busy dragging them into traps and making sure that they land in the traps. And I feel it would be more interesting if he had a bit more he was fighting the opponent directly a bit more. It's not really a big deal to me, though. This is still a very, very well-handled set, if you ask me.
One of the main things that I think that enables him to have as versatile setups as he does is just the anti-gravity magnetism that just lets him bring up all those constructions up into the freaking air. Yeah. The only thing that I really have to say negatively about this set is basically just the same thing I said about Warlord with Tau. It's basically just have some of the attacks interact with the blocks in a special way for no particular reason.
Yeah, that was Junahu's complaint with the set, and I think that is entirely fair. It's definitely not perfect, and I think I'll be able to outdo it someday in the future, but for now, this is probably my best, although Smady over there disagrees, but...
Well, I can definitely see what people would appreciate the set. It's very imaginative and open-ended.
I would say it's not nearly as much of an issue as it is in Lord Glex.
I suppose. But yeah, I'm very proud of this one, and I sort of wish it got second instead of Jin, and maybe won, but beggars can't be choosers.
FA is indeed a beggar.